Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of TC Talk. My name is Therese and thanks for stopping by. So I had to make this video because I just recently saw the Barbie movie and I have a lot of thoughts on said Barbie movie. So I don't think I need to, give you guys any introduction just because of marketing and everything. People, you should know already who and what Barbie, the brand, is. So I'm just gonna, jump right into it. And I think I will give a disclaimer that, things more than likely will get very heated on my end. So if you're not prepared, if you don't have any interest in listening to any F-bombs or swearing or expletives or just heated energy in general, feel free to skip ahead and come back when you do. On that note, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel because I appreciate all the, followers I get. But, so I have a lot of thoughts on this movie, and yeah, and especially the marketing and what the director Greta Gerwig has said surrounding this movie, and or the messaging, the very blatant messaging, which is effectively this movie. You might as well not call it Barbie. You might as well just call this movie Feminism and Patriarchy 101 and be done with it and call it a day. And on that note, you might as well. And I know the reason why I did it because I want to use the brand. And also because, well, at the very least at the beginning, they were actually, I'll give them props on their cleverness. Although I am also very pissed. I'm also very pissed off. But I guess that is a lesson learned. So, for the TLDR, too long didn't read version, save your money. Poor writers, explicit activist writers do not clearly deserve it when they, clearly have a chip on their shoulder, and if they hate you. They do not deserve your hard-earned money. Save it. Watch something which you can actually enjoy and not feel like you're being lectured. And I, as someone who calls myself a feminist, am the one that's actually, saying this. Am I surprised? Not really, because this is something that I've suspected, with mainstream media, mainstream Hollywood for a very long time. They have not made it a secret. They have not. The actors in that guild have not, hidden their feelings on these politics at all. But I think Barbie has been. I don't think for me in recent memory have I seen a movie where the message, for emphasis, has ever been so blatant, and that made me so angry. And among other things, the reason why it made me so angry is because on the level principles of feminism, I actually agree. But the way that these writers execute it has been done so poorly. Might add to the point where people think that this movie is actually satirical, and having watched the movie, I can actually understand why, because the way that they did was so poorly done and poorly executed, so hyperbolic, so outrageous that it is actually it is possible for me to get a fun time out of actually seeing it as just Ken's story about as though this movie was taking pot shots about both feminism, patriarchy, and sexism. The only thing I say to that is, it is my opinion and belief that the writers are not that clever to write a satire for this movie, so they don't deserve your money. They don't deserve your money. So for me, I will I will go through the storyline and why it frustrated me so much. But the lesson here, my friends, is if they are so blatantly going to put messaging and at the same time going to market it so cleverly that it is a Trojan horse, and they put these Trojan horses, and if you guys don't know what a Trojan horse is, it's basically presenting one thing as one thing but it having another. So for a brief history lesson, a Trojan horse was a strategy used, I think, between Greek and Sparta where the Spartans gifted the Greeks with a Trojan horse, which is actually not a gift. They're actually hiding soldiers, so they were able to infiltrate, the walls and attack, the city from within. So it's basically lying. And I think among anything, that's what makes me so angry, is because it's deceptive marketing. It's presenting, you're selling something that's not real. You sold the promise or an idea or the concept or the premise of a fun, lighthearted story with these characters. You're not supposed to take it seriously, and then and it is for the first 20 minutes, and then the rest is a blatant lecture, feminism 101. And I'm like, if I wanted to do that, I would have just gone to uni, just gone to Twitter, gone to TikTok, and I could have done, gotten my head beaten over the banner ram with that Greta Gerwig and gotten that for free. So no thanks. So on one hand, I understand completely why they did that. On the other, if that is the strategy that these Hollywood types are going to do these days, I don't trust the trailers at all unless you actually, especially, when they're going to keep doing that. And I'm going to introduce the word woke. You guys you do know what that word means. I mean, and if you don't like me using that word, social justice, politically, ideologically driven, usually leftist, and if you don't know what that word means, usually progressive. If they're not talking about racism, they're talking about feminism and sexism. If they're not talking about feminism, they're probably talking about colorism. If they're not talking about that, they're probably talking about fascism. If they're not talking, or at least their idea of what fascism is, I'll get back onto that, and if they're not beating you over the head with fascism, it's something else that they, it's about climate change, or it's about, and again, it's not that I actually don't believe any of these things, it's just the execution is so poor, and that makes me angry, and I feel like there's a time and place for everything, and this was not it. And it's just, I've been following a lot of comments about what people have said, and for this, well, it's a Barbie movie. What did you expect? Well, let's go into that. Who this movie is for? It's clearly not for 7-8-year-old girls that are playing with Barbie dolls at the moment. It's not for them. And maybe the parents have misunderstood and inadvertently taken, because they were under the impression that they were taking it for fun, lighthearted, not so serious, just colors and everything. And you know what? If you want to do that, if you want to give your kids a movie that love Barbie, there have been a whole series of animated Barbie movies that do exactly just that. That is money better spent, but instead no. So yeah, this movie is clearly marketed for older women who have a degree in gender studies, who have clearly a chip on their shoulder, who just want them to do that in every hipster bar that you can find, and just want to have a little bit of validation that their feelings on the difficulties of being women are valid. That's clearly who this movie is for. It's clearly for for women that are Greta Gerwig that just had this whole thing. And it was hilarious because I did see an interview where she was telling I think it was a TV host, that her mom didn't allow her to play with dolls because of all the obvious reasons, because it gives you for obvious reasons, because of the reason, body image and everything. Yes. And you want to talk about, do you think Barbie is the thing that's causing that? Now, look around on social media and TikTok. Look around TikTok and Instagram. Where do you think all these, and you can see that there is. Where do you think it's coming from? It's not. But, that's a whole nother, Yeah, so this movie is clear market. It's clear actually for these older women who, have a chip up their shoulder, and I don't know who else. It's probably only for other people that might be a fan of, Ryan Gosling, because he's actually a fun character, despite the fact of everything that happens. I guess you can still take something away from that. So yeah, I guess the lesson is if they are going to, if that is a strategy, you just have to be more savvy and save your money until some of the reviews come in, and don't give your money until then if you just want to have a good time and you don't want to be lectured, because that's basically what you're gonna get if you still want to watch movies like these. So what is this? I mean, and it's just there are so many ideas that are thrown into this movie, and they are so poorly executed because they are not resolved at all, because clearly Greta Gerwig is not interested in actually telling a story about Barbie or what happens to her. It feels like, no, she is using this IP, this intellectual property, in the same way as so many other these filmmakers do, as a cudgel, as a battering ram for their own personal ideologies. And it just frustrates me that they do this. And it's like, you just had to look. I mean, there's so many other movies that did what this movie was trying to attempt to do so much, better, like Legally Blonde. If you want to, do that, you want to say, oh, women still can, do everything despite the difficulties that come with it. Or even Not Pleasantville or Life Size starring Tyra Banks and Lindsay Lohan. Watch those movies instead, because it's like this movie tries to deal with deal with movies about existential crises, purpose, and they throw away dialogue and comments, because not only did she not see the theme early enough for it to make sense, for it to weave into the narrative, it was just resolved so quickly that you just kind of go, what the hell? And it was so quick. And okay, so I suppose, let me just go into a quick preamble of what this story is about, and I'll keep rambling from there. I hope you guys are hanging in there, guys. So yeah, basically you start off with Barbie Land, and things are as you would expect, where everything's perfect and playful until it's not. And the premise of this movie is the reason why things start going up shit creek is because the girl that is playing with the stereotypical Barbie doll, aka Margot Robbie, is because she is sad and she's having very depressive thoughts and thoughts of dying. And that's something that she needs to fix, and the only way that she needs to fix that is apologies for me being too close to the camera. The only way that she can fix that is because is through traveling to the real world. And the movie doesn't actually explore how that works, like where the distinction is and what happens. You're not meant to really care. Just go with the idea that there is Barbie Land and real world. So she does. And then she gets in a lesson 101 in patriarchy. So at that point, that's where you can see where this movie is going, and things are not so great for Barbie, because she learns that the real world actually sucks, and she starts to learn things like starts to cry and everything. Meanwhile, Ken learns all about how men rule the world apparently, and that's cool. So he takes that back and he turns, he's basically the antagonist of this movie. He's the trigger for things being a problem, and so he turns Barbie Land into Kendom effectively, all within the day, which is no small feat. So back to Barbie, who's trying to find the girl. So she thinks she finds the girl, in which case she gets told off, and I swear to God, I mean that diatribe, that speech, that spiel that Sasha, I think the character's name, that was Sasha, all about oh Barbie, you represent everything that's wrong with the society, blah 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 blah, something capitalism, something fascism. And I'm like, little girl, you're 14 years old. You have no idea what fascism is. Sit down. So and there's no like resolution to any of that. She just ends up with having a stick up her ass. That's basically your introduction to that 14-year-old girl. And I know I know the teenagers are probably like this by and large. They're angry and rebellious. I know this because I was a teenager and probably was the same thing. But goddamn, it just I it was so obvious to me that probably no real 14-year-old actually talks like this. It was so obviously Greta Gerwig and Rose who have a stick up their ass and have a chip on their shoulder about patriarchy, sexism, blah 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 blah. And so they had to use this character as a mouthpiece for that because Barbie sucks. And yet you still want to make a movie about Barbie. Can we please get writers and directors who actually care about the product material if you're gonna give them IP? You just have to you guys just saw Super Mario Brothers, right? You see what it is. You see what it's like when people actually care about the characters and the story they're trying to tell. You see how Henry Cavill cares about his character in Witcher. You just have to do that. It's actually not that difficult. It really isn't. So going back to Barbie Land, where she she has a little cry because her feelings are hurt, something, and then you realize that it's not her that's the girl that is the one that's connected to her. It's actually her mum, who actually works for Mattel TM. At least according to this movie, Mattel TM. And yeah, on that note, they never really okay. That bond between the girl and the Barbie, have fun, because you're never gonna see that storyline played up ever again. It's kind of like an entry from zero, and they drop it almost as quickly. So the only thing that you know is that she's sad, she's depressed, she's clearly not happy with where life is going. Again, you're never gonna see that really dealt with or looked at in a way that I think you need to. In which case, if she was she should talk to a professional about this. So yeah, so they go back to movie world. I think it's just because they want to fix it, and also because Kendom and patriarchy bad. So they need to take over that, because Kens have clearly taken the women who used to be the presidents and everything, and for some reason now they're wearing like the maid costumes, and were able to program them in that way somehow. You never actually get to see how. But just take it over that's basically it's because patriarchy bad. So let's go fix it. So how do they fix it? How do they fix it? Oh god, I think it's just the idea is as you can tell, I kind of I've long mentally checked out, because I had no interest in being being lectured. So basically what happens is they invoke jealousy, they cause discord between others. For some reason it works until they have the dance number, and then Ryan starts singing. So I don't know how exactly they resolve that, except it ends with him crying, because he clearly is has his whole premise, his whole character is like, who am I without Barbie? What am I? What's my purpose? And apparently the film decides to resolve it in one conversation, and just you're Ken. And I'm like, you have to find that out. I'm just like, okay, but he's a doll, and yeah, that's what you get. That's his character resolution, I suppose. And yeah, what else? I'm just trying to vaguely remember what else. What else is there? So yeah, there's that. And for some reason, Barbie wants to become human because of reasons. Even though we just had the dialogue just proved from Mattel owner saying that humans die, but ideas last forever. Like, not 5 minutes earlier did we have that, and then she still wants to become human because of reasons. And we end with her not going to a job interview, but seeing a gynecologist. I've never met anyone who's excited about a gynecologist appointment. Do you know what goes on in a gynecologist appointment? It's not fun. It's painful and uncomfortable. What the what? Is that your idea of what her introduction into being a woman is? Really Greta Gerwig. So yeah, among other things. So yeah, so there are a lot of ideas, a lot of themes that are poorly executed, and yeah, I think it's so ridiculous that you're not meant to take it seriously. It's probably the only way you can actually get. It's the only way that I could get through this movie. On honestly, and on that note, don't pay for this movie. Don't pay for any movie that feels like you're gonna be lectured or someone who clearly hates you. Why? Why do that to yourself? Life is too short. Generally, life. You should enjoy life. Save your money when you can. When it's so obvious that you're not going for a good time, and I have heard, other people saying, yeah, but it's satirical. It makes both sides, patriarchy and feminism, ridiculous. And I'm like, no, she still doesn't deserve my money. The only reason why it comes off this way because of poor writing. That's the only reason why you can actually possibly interpret it in that way, because the themes and the narrative was so poorly executed and poorly resolved. Like, you have so many ideas and not knowing where to go with it because you don't care. She doesn't care. She doesn't care about Barbie. She doesn't care about any of the characters. She's just there for the virtue signal. That's basically what this is. This is one big virtue signal of a movie. Like I said before, this might as well just be patriarchy, a lesson in feminism, sexism 101, and you would have gotten the same thing, but at least it would have been honest. And I think, among other things, that's what pisses me off so much, because of the very clear mismarketing. And on one hand it was clever, but on the other hand the trailers promised something that wasn't there. That wasn't it. And that is a lesson learned. Save your money from any new trailer comes to. You're probably more likely gonna get cudgeled with the message, whatever that is, or the day, and you're probably not gonna get it with time. And yeah, it ends on this in his quote, which I'll read out, just because you can see who, like, it's, you can see that the line between the character and the writer is so paper thin in this movie. Example: it is literally impossible to be a woman. You are so beautiful and so smart, and it kills me that you don't think you're good enough. On that note, again, those ideas that for some reason pop up without having any introduction or any reason. Exactly that, because Barbie has a crisis where she thinks she's not good enough, and I'm like, how was that idea introduced? Where was the lead? Where was the leader? Where was that coming from? And then you realize it wasn't. It's just the only reason why that came up is for this. I'll continue now. Like, we have to always be extraordinary, but somehow we're always doing it wrong. You have to be thin, but not too thin. And you can never say you want to be thin. You have to say you want to be healthy, but also you have to be thin. You have to have money, but you can't ask for money because that's crass. You have to be boss, but you can't be mean. You have to lead, but you can't squash other people's ideas. You're supposed to love being a mother, but don't talk about your kids all the damn time. You have to have a career and will always be looking out for other people. You have to answer for men's bad behavior, which is insane, but if you point out you're accused of complaining, you're supposed to stay pretty for men, but so pretty that you tempt them too much, or you threaten other women because you're supposed to be part of the sisterhood. Does that really exist? I don't know. But always stand and always be grateful, but never forget that the system is rigged. So find a way to acknowledge that, but always be grateful. But you don't have to be old, never be rude, never show off, never be selfish, never fall down, never fall, never show fear, never forget a line. It's too hard, it's too contradictory, never gives you a medal or say thank you. And turns out, in fact, they're not only doing everything wrong, but everything is also fault. And I'm just so tired of myself. I'm watching myself every single time myself, and not so that women will like us. And if that all of that is too true, they'll just represent women, then I don't even know what's a good women. Well, here's the thing. As someone who is a woman, the way that you do that is ignore what other people say, because people have ideas of here's what I think. Try this for a solution. different things work for different people. Why don't you spend the time to focus what works for you and ignore what works for other people? Easier said than done, but it's the basic way to do it instead of divulging yourself instead of this. But do you see what I mean? Do you see what I mean when I say the virtue signaling message? It's just I think it just ticks me so much because this movie was so blatant at it, and you never get that impression from what the from what the trailers gave. So yeah. So where do we go from? So where do we go from this? I mean, the movie has done really, really, really well. Yeah, I'm thinking of making a whole universe with the dolls, G.I. Joe, and all the things. I have absolutely no interest in giving my money to any of those movies, and I have even less interest in giving money to the Snow and Seven Wars, in which Greta Gerwig is one of the writers, because we already heard whispers of it. Oh, it's for modern audiences. The whole movie Snow White is so updated. We're not even gonna have dwarves anymore. So I'm like, well, okay. So that's where we're at now. Yeah, I think I'm done, at least for part 1. I probably will do a stream for this. Thanks for listening to my rant, guys. I probably have a lot of more thoughts, more that comes. I'm just still trying to process all of this. So yeah, if you enjoyed that, let me know, and I will do a live stream where I can chat to you guys about it. Until then, I'll see you next time.